Hello and welcome to Property Question Time. I'm Stephen Galpin and this is the show where you can have your property related questions answered by a team of experts. And joining me today is Vincent Wong, Director of Wealth Dragons Group PLC. Welcome to you, Vincent.
Thank you.
And joining Vincent is John Howard, developer, author, property expert, mentor and star of various other TV shows.
Thank you.
Well, that's all right. You're always telling me to be nice to you. Vincent, I'm intrigued by the number of experts, mentors and tutors offering their educational services to the less informed like myself. Could the experts guide me on how I may choose the right organisation to help with my property industry education?
Great question.
Yeah. Well, the American novelist, motivational speaker Jim Rohn once said, formal education can make you a living, while self-education can make you a fortune. So it's common that people spend tens of thousands of pounds going to university to get a degree and hoping that they'll make a living out of doing it, but nothing's guaranteed. So now the idea of self-education is a rather sort of obscure and misunderstood one, because if you're telling people that I'm investing money to develop myself on subjects that's outside of formal education schools, is quite a bizarre one, and people often think that is some sort of get rich quick. Well, it's anything but the whole idea is to learn from people who've been there and done that, and you're talking about real life skills and business skills. I mean, if you look at the graduates that come out of university, they have no skill whatsoever, and they feel that they're entitled to jobs and high earnings, which is not true. I mean, for me, from my personal experience, going back, I think it's 2002, I invested £10,000 on a mentorship that actually lasted 2 days. And that was an extraordinary amount of money, but that ended up being the best investment I ever made, because it actually changed the way I invested in property in the next 15 years. So if you're looking to find a mentor, which is great, there are three things that I would suggest. Number one is you need to adjust your expectation, because the responsibility of extracting value is on the part of the learner, not the provider of the content. So you cannot expect to get rich any more than, doing a university degree to expect to walk into a high-paying job in the city, right? You're going to have to implement what you've learned. The responsibility is yours. And number two, of course, carry out your due diligence to make sure that whoever you're learning from is definitely bona fide and they have achieved what they've claimed to achieve. I mean, right now you can just go online. You can see a lot of feedback on, Google Business Review or a lot of review websites. Do your research. Now, one thing I would suggest is that people who may be very successful in, let's say, property real estate, may not be very good at teaching. But the people who are very good at teaching may not have been multimillionaires. But what's important is to understand what you're actually learning, whether it's applicable to your life, whether it's something that is definitely going to benefit you. Do your research. And lastly, I always say that it's not so much what you learn that's important, but the person that you need to become in order to become successful in business, especially. You can learn 10 strategies from John, but if you haven't got the attributes of an entrepreneur, you haven't got the right attitude.
Don't do it.
No, don't do it.
No, do something else.
Right, because deals are not going to land on your doorstep.
No.
I'll always say that it's not about getting rich quick, it's about getting rich forever.
I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the things, I look at these sort of tutorial things on the internet, and you read and you think, oh dear, no. This is just rubbish. There is no
hype.
There's no golden pot just round the corner with using everybody else's money. It just doesn't work like that. there are systems and strategies that you can take where you do leverage money, you do.
There's some very good,
some quite good stuff. But if you haven't got the mental temperament to be a business person, then don't do it.
Yeah.
Well,
because you're going to be forced into making decisions that are going to hurt
that aren't
you.
natural to you as well.
Yeah.
So what really frustrates me, and I don't do much. I do a small amount of education. I don't do a lot of it. I do a little bit of mentorship, not a lot of it, because I'm busy doing my own things. But that's one of the things you should be asking. What is the educator doing? And the ones that say, well, would you like to invest in my deal? Are definitely the ones not to use. But also what really frustrates me is you get someone who just got into the property industry, they've done one deal, and then they become experts and say, well, I can do it. Well, you've done it once. Yeah. Try doing it over 40 years. See how you got on then. And that's what really frustrates me. Yeah. People are getting misled with all the hype and be a millionaire in a year and all this rubbish.
I mean, there's lots of practical stuff, isn't there?
Yes.
I mean, you often see, well, I've built up a £10 million portfolio. Lovely, do a land registry check and see what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite easy these days.
I agree entirely.
And at the same time, I mean, in my years of experience in the education industry, I'm yet to hear someone claiming that they will guarantee your success, that if you follow me, you will become a millionaire in a year. I think a lot of times people hear what they want to hear as well. And I truly believe that you can learn something from anybody.
Yes.
And anyone could be more experienced than you. But again, you're going to have to do your research carefully, because you could actually, flush your money down the drain.
Yeah.
Especially when you talk about wealth development, there is a lot of money involved.
Yeah.
It's a huge industry. If you just look at e-learning, according to Forbes, by 2025, it's going to be worth $350 billion US. People do spend money on learning.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But, just be careful.
Okay. Great advice. Thank you very much, Vincent. John, if the predicted devastation of the Conservative Party materialises...
Why are you having to go at me all the time?
Well...
I mean, someone has emailed that you've got hundreds of questions you get emailed in every week, and you always pick one like this. Why? And always to me.
I'm trying to pick one that you're bright enough to answer.
Carry on, sorry.
Right, so...
Tantrum over.
If the predicted devastation of the Conservative Party materialises, what effect do the panel think it will be? What effect will it have on the UK sales and rental housing market?
Well, first of all, we all think we know what's going to happen. Vincent, yourself, myself, I think that the Conservatives are going to be trounced at the next election, and I think that's probably what's going to happen. Most people in this country would probably accept that now. May not be quite as bad as they're making out, but I think, we're going to have a Labour government, aren't we?
Are you sure? I don't know.
Aren't you, Vincent?
No.
You're half a believer still. Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. Your optimism is what I need.
Majority.
When I'm knocking on those doors, that's what I need, your optimism. So I think we could assume that, well, let's assume that's the case. What are Labour going to do? They've promised they're going to build a lot more houses. The top 10 house builders in the UK, their shares went up last week on the back of the fact they think Labour will get in and that Labour will increase the amount of houses that are going to be built. Now, can they possibly do that? They're going to have to change the planning laws to do that, that's for sure. They're going to have to, and that's not going to happen over 10 months. That's going to take a while. It all sounds easy when you're in opposition. When you actually when you actually run in the country, they're going to have a lot of challenges, a lot of problems, and they want to build more social houses than they do private homes. That's what they do. They're socialists. They don't believe in anyone owning more than one home, certainly, and some of them don't even believe you should own a home. So I don't think a lot is going to change in the first 2 years. I cannot see how it can change that quickly. I think they've got a lot of challenges, they've got a lot of problems, and at the end of the day, these house builders will control the market.
Well, I think that's
won't
the
they?
important thing to remember. It's
Yeah.
not the government that's going to build these houses,
No.
it's house builders.
Yes.
And the circumstances have to be right.
Yeah.
And the first most important factor is, can the people that want those houses afford to buy them? Can they fund them? Can they get mortgages? And that's a difficult point at the moment. Next, then, are the local authorities going to give permission for all these houses?
Exactly.
That's not a given, is
No.
it? Because you're going to have a lot of councils that I think are going to have a lot of green influence in their makeup.
Mhm.
So they're not going to be overly keen to
No.
have, big developments. Green belt we've talked about before.
We have, yeah.
That's still going to be protected.
I
So
agree.
it's not an easy call. It's okay saying I want to build 300,000 homes.
Well,
but
300,000
who?
is nowhere enough. This government's building 220,000. It's trying to build 300.
Yeah.
The truth is, we need to build 500,000 houses a year.
And I suppose the other thing is, again, I'd be very much in favour of the council building their own houses to let out long term and give a lot of people more access to, safe homes, if you like. But where are they going to get the money from?
Yeah.
We're already screaming because we're getting squeezed on council tax. I mean,
I think inflation also could. I don't see how they're going to keep inflation
the average
to 2 to 3%.
the average now across London for council tax is 3,500. I mean, it's a huge amount of money. I mean, 60 quid a week, isn't it?
Well, that's going to have to go up.
Well, it is if people want to build homes.
Yeah.
But there we are. Okay, well, look, that's all we've got time for in this half of the show. So join us again after the break and we'll be asking John and Vincent more of your questions. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Question Time with Vincent Wong and John Howard. Vincent, do the panel think that tax benefits for those investing in buy-to-let properties should be introduced to increase the volume of properties available and subsequently dampen rental price inflation?
Well, it's just not so long ago when the government abolished the mortgage interest incentive. So driving a lot of buy-to-let landlords off the market. So if they're going to reintroduce it, or they're going to introduce new tax benefits, that could reverse the situation. But would that actually incentivize what we're seeing before the bust in 2008, when house builders come in to build lots of properties, and then that had a knock-on effect on the buy-to-let mortgage lending market, and they were just lending for properties that were just popping up, these big condos in city centres where, they were completely overpriced. So how would that benefit anybody? Well, there could be more homeowners being able to get into those properties, but you could be almost certain that there would be negative equity pretty quickly. But from an investment point of view, it's just suicide, because your cash flow is probably going to be negative, because house builders always have to make their profit before investors do. So they inflate prices by a huge margin. So why would you, as an investor, buy a property that is costing you money? So I hope this is not going to happen, because we've got also other things that would put a brake on this, such as the proposed renters reform bill that may put off
More landlords. Yeah.
So I think it may get balanced out.
The one thing that's really odd is, in the last budget, the Chancellor of the Exchequer took off, was it 4% capital gains off landlords who want to sell. So it went from 28%, I think, to 24%. Check that, something like that anyway. Well, why would they do that? To encourage landlords to sell.
Yeah.
Surely they want to encourage landlords to retain their properties and rent them out. So, what they've done in Ireland, where they've reversed the whole thing, the whole idea is totally reversed from where it was. And now saying, the longer you retain your property to rent out, the less tax you'll pay, which is a much better incentive.
For these big corporate entities that are buying blocks now to rent, fine. Tell them if they keep them for 10 years and keep them on the market, then if they want to sell and reinvest, then they get 60, 70% tax relief on any profit they make?
Most of those, aren't they? They're all funded by American big funds, aren't they, Vincent, and people like that?
Well, you've got. I mean, just across the road here, you've got Legal and General.
Yeah, they're
investing
doing
in
it,
a block,
but they're looking at it over 50 years, probably, aren't they? Not looking at like we have to look after.
You've got John Lewis doing it.
Yeah, but you've got to look at. We have to see if we can get a return within a few years.
Yeah.
They're looking over perhaps 50 years. I mean, it's totally different, isn't it? There's no comparison to what we can do as small landlords compared to what they can do as a big, massive groups.
You see, I agree with you there, John, but I also think there ought to be some kind of restriction on these people. I alluded to it earlier in the programme where we're saying the institutional investor, like your insurance companies, whatever, they can offer people long-term rental situations, and they should. And their leases should be geared to that, rather than dealing with sort of 6-month, 12-month short hold tenancies.
So you think they should be, like Vincent suggested earlier, you think there should be two different types of leases available to
and the smaller private landlord should be perhaps restricted to a 12-month term.
Yeah.
And do it that way. I just think it needs a whole review of the whole rental situation, what the leases are. I mean, I've joked about it before, but I've seen leases here on some of these blocks where even solicitors have cut and pasted leases. And, you're living in a 70-storey block and it says, you shall clean your chimney every 3 months.
I think it's updated.
And keep the lawn mowed.
Quite right too.
It's about time we've just got a bit more professional on this sort of stuff. That's my feeling. All right, there we are. John, do the panel think that the current state of the housing market is pretty similar in performance right across the UK, excepting, of course, prices? And if so, are the pundits predicting a gradual upward trend right?
I'll be interested to hear what Vincent's got to say on this one as well. So from my point of view, last year was a pretty tough year for the house builders and for the estate agents and so on. We all predicted that this year would start off a lot better, and it hasn't done. So you've got one of the major house builders in the UK, after 3 months, has said our reservations are a third down on last year. Well, last year wasn't great, Vincent, was it? So they're a third down. We've got another major house builder saying they're very disappointed with the first 2 months of sales. From an estate agent's point of view, and I've got estate agencies, we have been disappointed. We thought it would improve more. It's improved a bit, but we thought it would improve a lot more. But we've got to remember that we've got 1.6 million people coming off fixed rate mortgages. We've got an election. We've still got inflation, whatever the government says it's coming down. Well, it's coming down, but it's still, people are having to spend a lot more money than they were on things. So I think when you add all those things up, the market is going to be tough this year. Are there pockets where things are better than other places? Of course, it's a micro market, and there's certain areas where, mainly cash buyers, but even those cash buyers have probably got to sell theirs to have the cash. And it's the first time buyers which are struggling at the moment, not the ones higher up. The ones higher up who are downsizing or buying a bigger property, they can probably afford it because they're cash buyers and all the rest of it. But it's the ones down, starting off, who are trying to get on the property ladder. Last year, the bank of mum and dad were the 4th highest lender. I mean, that's bonkers. 8.4 billion they lent to their families to buy.
Yeah. Vincent, you must talk to a lot of people across the country. What do you think?
Well, I think that the reason that house price index suggests that, I think the one published in March, in terms of the north-south divide, I think the north is actually gone up by 4%, while the rest of the country is 1.25. So the north is definitely doing better in terms of the price. How that is...
is that affordability, do you think?
Well, it could be, because inflation's come down. I think a lot of mortgage lenders are starting to give better rates to borrowers, and I think that it's going to be quite a healthy growth in the next 2 to 3 years.
And do you think that's because, particularly in the north, you've got a much stronger element of home buyers rather than investors. I mean, if you were to take the square mile here, for instance.
We're talking about individual investors.
Yeah,
definitely.
Real purchases.
Well, in the past, usually capital appreciation goes up much quicker down in the south and in capital cities, and the rental yield is higher up north. But the trend seems to be reversing because probably people are starting to see more bargains up north, and they're starting to buy up more assets because simply not many people can afford. You know, the average house price is what? 300,000, and down in London it's going to be way more.
Well, Vincent, I mean, you can look out of the window here and you see one-bedroom flats for £880,000.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
You know.
Absolutely bonkers. It's depressing.
Yeah,
it is depressing. I just
not depressing for you because you've got a property nearby. So
what's
depressing for the rest of us who don't live in London.
I'm struggling, I tell you.
Of course you are.
No, but I mean, it's very, very difficult, isn't it? Because you see, the councils and the planners have insisted that we be more adventurous with architecture, more adventurous with green projects, but it all costs money.
Yeah, exactly.
And it costs a lot more money here. When you're working in such a confined space, you've got logistical difficulties.
It's not all about the square mile in London and all the rest of it. There is a whole country out there, Steve.
I know.
As Vincent has said. And he's already said the up north things have gone up more than have down south. He's already said that.
Well, they have to.
So I suggest you sell what you've got now and you go and buy up north.
Go up north. Yeah, I wish I could. But it's a little bit like the old London sort of difficulty was, perhaps Vincent, you can remember and experience this. You had Marylebone, which was only across the road from Mayfair, but probably 30% cheaper.
Oh yeah.
So everybody would look at Mayfair and Marylebone. Yeah, Christ, Marylebone's only 10 yards away, and it's 30% cheaper. I'm going there. And then, of course, that would inflate the prices in Marylebone. And people say, do you know what?
It's a wave effect,
it's only across the road to go into Mayfair, and it's only 10% more, you know.
Definitely. I used to have a property in Acton in West London, postcode's W3. And literally, you cross over a bridge within 50 yards, and you're in Chiswick, which is W4, and there's like a 20% price difference immediately.
Yeah.
Amazing,
So,
amazing.
It's stunning. Well, you see, you're talking to somebody here. I used to work down at Tower Bridge when that first started for development. And I mean, you couldn't even get a taxi to come over the bridge then. They'd say, no, mate, I'm not going over there. I might not get back again. You know?
How things
change.
Or Clapham.
Yeah.
It's called Clam now. Clam, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for your contributions today. Great show. Thanks for your answers.
Pleasure.
Thank you for watching. I'm Stephen Galpin. Join me again next time on Property Question Time.